staff to support them in their home. So it allows them to have access to an occupational therapist, a nurse, and a social worker to work on improvements in the home and educating both the older adult and the caregiver in the home. And we have already launched and have started our screening and enrollment for clients and caregivers this month.
Great. Thank you, Allison. Appreciate the update and welcome to you and your team. Shannon, would you like to go next? And let's just do introductions and we'll do project descriptions later. Oh, Shannon's microphone isn't working. Shannon's from the University of Michigan Silver Club Memory Program, partnering with Jewish Family Services and Catholic Social Services. Welcome to any and all from that team who are with us today. Let's go on to Kim McMahon from American Cancer Society. Go ahead, Kim.
Hi, Lisa. I'm on today. Our project is Caring for Caregivers, and I'm on today with two members of our foundation team from American Cancer Society, Leslie Diaz and Caitlin Wright.
Thank you very much, Kim. Welcome to you and your team. Are there any other team leads that are present or other teams that are represented here today that haven't already done introductions that I haven't called on? I'm trying to look through the list of names that are on our group here. I think we got everyone. Anyone else who wants to just say hello, introduce themselves and their team? Are we good? Okay. So quickly, just faculty, myself, we have also Sharon Rajadurai from TPI on the call today. And Sharon, thank you for starting up the recording. Teresa, would you like to just say hello?
Hi, everyone. Teresa here. Good to see everyone. 2 pages of people. It's so exciting to have been part of, getting you teed up, helping you in your project proposals, watching you struggle and pull it together. And gosh, to have all of them now as finished project proposals that were accepted is really an honor. So I look forward just to being at this point going forward. Technical assistance, when you get stuck, remember, if it feels like you're stuck, you probably are. So bring in me to facilitate, coordinate virtually, in person, just to keep you moving. So great to see all of you again.
Thank you, Teresa. Teresa is the best. Don't hesitate to email or call on her. She'll really help. Also, Ken, I think we have Ken Genowick from Health Foundation. Are you here, Ken?
Yes, I am, Lisa. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Teresa said, it's great to see so many people, a couple pages worth of people on this webinar today. But I know many of you. I don't know all of you yet, but I hope to meet all of you in the coming months. But very excited to be here, and congratulations on getting your projects all off the ground. I remember reading all of them, so it's exciting to be able to be on this call with all of you. I'm from the Health Foundation for Western Central New York, one of the funders for this project. But you guys are in great hands with Lisa, Teresa, Archangels, and everyone else here. So glad to be a part of today's call.
Thank you so much, Ken. Anyone else from our funder team want to say hello, present today? I think that's it. All right, great. Well, thank you, everybody, and welcome again. I want to echo the thank you to everyone who was involved with developing your work plans. They came out really, really well, and I think you're well positioned to use them to go forward to implement your programs. Now the phase that we're in is sort of now that we understand, and we all understand your work plans and how you're going to go about implementing. We want to be thinking about how will we evaluate these programs and how can we help you make the case and demonstrate the value of what you're doing to the world, to other funders, and to help you with sustainability down the road. It's really the purpose of our goal, our goal around evaluation for this program. So with that, I want to turn it over to Linda to share a little bit of feedback about the year 1 evaluation that was completed last fall. I think everybody participated in some fashion in that effort, and I want to thank you for that. We'll be doing these evaluation reports and report outs every year throughout this project, so it'll be an ongoing thing. That'll be a once-a-year activity, and I want to turn it over to Linda now to share the year 1 report. Thank you, Linda.
So thank you, Lisa. And I hate to start on a kind of odd note, but I'm actually not going to talk about the year one findings. We're really kind of going forward. But I'm happy to share them at another time.
Okay,
So,
Linda.
yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Sorry, I missed it. I thought you were going to do the year one report. That's okay.
Yeah, okay. But if people have questions about that or anything, I'm happy to talk about it, but the slides actually don't go over that. So anyway, so yeah, what I'm going to talk about, an overview of the evaluation, kind of going forward. So just an outline of the different kind of parts of what I'm going to talk about today. First, I'd just like to kind of introduce you to my department, my organization, and then a kind of broad overview of the evaluation, the framework, what we want to learn from it, something about the process, what do you need to do, what do we need to do, evaluation planning, which is of course something you need to do relatively soon, and then what I will share in terms of findings are really findings from the pilot. And that's, we had some nice findings from the first grants. And so hopefully that will motivate everybody. So I am from the Center for Evaluation and Applied Research at the New York Academy of Medicine. And you saw 4 of my colleagues also from what we call it CEER. Our department is 8, so a little more than half of us are here. And we are, our main expertise is actually evaluation. So we do formative process outcome evaluation, and our focus is health and the things that affect it. So social determinants or factors that affect health. We've done a fair amount of work on aging, partnerships, clinical community, other kinds, behavioral health, as I said, social determinants. We are a mixed methods group. So some of us, we all do both, but some of us, our heart is in qualitative, some quantitative, but we do all kinds of, we use all kinds of methods. So surveys, interviews, focus groups, healthcare claims. And we do provide research and evaluation training and technical assistance for some organizations. So we've been working with Exhale from the beginning. So we're, with all the pilots and through the development of this cohort so far. And I think we've been on calls with almost all of you, almost all of the projects. So we're kind of divided in 2 groups. So one group, Maya, Alexandra, Lisa, and me, we're kind of general evaluation, and then Shiva and Forum are really our data experts. So just for your information, most of the time when you talk to us, especially in our planning stage, there will be kind of one from the general group and one from the data group on each call. And because there are many of you, what we've done, as I think you've seen in email, is we've kind of divided it up. So you will each have the same kind of pair of people that you'll work with throughout. So, in our conversations with you, we're talking mostly about project evaluation, but we are doing an overall evaluation of Exhale. So we're looking at the infrastructure and supports. And for those of you who did participate in interviews last year, the piece that Lisa was referring to, and I know all of you filled out workshop surveys, or most of you. So those are kind of the broader parts of the broader evaluation. And then, as those of you who've talked to us know, we are also focusing on the funded projects, but the goal of that is really to assess the program overall. We're not, we want to help you focus on understanding your outcomes and processes, but we are really, our focus is the initiative And so the purposes of the evaluation or the uses of it, quality assurance, quality improvement to support decision making, hopefully sustainability, expansion, replication. And so we report back to Lisa and the philanthropic initiative annually. And I would say that findings do get used, and the program has changed over time based on what we've heard from, from grantees like you. Hopefully we'll all have findings significant, relevant enough to share with external stakeholders, with the outside world. So that, that's kind of an end goal as well. So more specifically, like, what do we want to know in the evaluation? So, consistent with the workshops, with the RFP, we want to know has there been an expansion in respite opportunities? So are there more opportunities? Are people benefiting from the respite opportunities? So are they using them? And if they are using them, is there improved well-being? Another, at a kind of higher level, an organizational level, we want to know about organizational capacity, whether there's any changes, including more collaboration or referral agreements between organizations. And then, I know that you all know that in this initiative was not looking for very, kind of standard models of respite, not that they weren't acceptable, but the idea of thinking outside the box, being creative in your thinking about respite was, kind of baked in from the beginning. So that's another area we're very interested in. Does this expanded, more creative approach result in respite programs that are of benefit to caregivers? We are using the kind of results-based accountability. So very simply, how much happened, how much did we do? How well did we do it? And is anyone better off? So I think that, probably this is what everyone is, thinking about. Okay, what do we need to do? So, and I think we've talked to almost all of you, so this should seem familiar, but the one thing all the grantees need to do is develop an evaluation plan. I believe most of you have an April 15th deadline for that. And you received a template, and we're having calls to talk through that with each of you. All participants are to complete a baseline, a 3-month, and a 6-month assessment. So that's a standard form. It's about 20 questions. We have we are governed or overseen by an institutional review board. So we do have a consent form that's been approved that we can send out to everyone. You should give it to participants. There's no signature required. If you need it tailored at all, like your own program name, we can do that, and just it has to get restamped. But right now it says Excel, but we'll send that out to those who don't have it. Obviously, in doing the assessments, the data has to be made available to us for analysis. We want the programs to track people over time and link them however makes sense, however works for your program. And we'll talk to we'll talk to each of you about that. But we do want to be able to link individual baselines to follow-ups, as well as to the caregiver intensity index for programs that are using that. Part of our evaluation is key stakeholder interviews each year. So some of you did do them last year, and thank you for that. But you might be asked again next year. We also, for the pilots this year, did some participant interviews, so that also would be coming. So as I mentioned, our assessment is just a little over 20 questions. The 6 month is actually shorter than that, but the first two are about 20 questions, and they cover demographics, caregiving responsibilities, general health, mental health, healthcare use, experience with respite outside or prior to the program, and within the program, and then within the follow-up assessments, perceived impact, and whether continued access to respite, either by directly using the program or using skills or resources made available through the program. So we really want to be helpful. We generally see ourselves as partners in research and evaluation. We're not like some outside people. We want to work with you. So we general support is available as needed. We will talk to everyone about the collection of assessment data and help to facilitate that, to make sure that you're collecting what you need to collect and getting it to us. If you have other interests in evaluation, questions that you want addressed, topic areas, we're happy to talk to you about other instruments, other questions that you might want to add. As I mentioned before, we do evaluation training, technical assistance, so support evaluation capacity building in general, if that's appropriate. And then immediately we're helping you to prepare the evaluation plans. So this initial planning process, we're scheduling meetings with each project team, and thank you for having us meet with you. So for those who have not yet had those meetings, basically within them, the idea is to share information on the project, so we are sure we understand what you're doing, and sharing information on the evaluation, so you understand both the expectations and the kind of, so we can figure out how it can work best. We review and confirm the data collection expectations and processes, and establish the systems for data collection and tracking. And we are not coming in with, we have instruments that are required, but not necessarily processes. So we want it to work with your processes. In these calls, we do review the evaluation plan requirements, answer questions, and give thoughts. So the evaluation plan itself, hopefully everyone has seen it. The template, that is, Lisa sent it out a few weeks ago by now. We're not expecting anything lengthy. I think the guidance was about 2 pages or 3 pages, something like that. The first part, which I don't have here, but is just a brief description of the program, just so, kind of to ground the document. But we do ask you to develop process and outcome evaluation questions, and we're happy to help. The template provides some examples, but we're happy to help you think through that. A brief description of the methods for data collection and analysis, reporting. There are requirements around reporting to TPI, but the hope is that evaluation data can be useful internally or to your other stakeholders, and so some thought about how you'll report. We do have, as I mentioned, because we are covered by an IRB, we have in our consent form information on protection about participants, so that information is actually just almost copied into the template. Whether you have an IRB or any other kind of HIPAA, other requirements, these things are obviously very important, confidentiality, data security. So we think it's a good reminder to keep it in there. We ask that you send the plan to us before it goes to the philanthropic initiative. We'll just review it and help with any issues, and then send it on the way.
Linda, I'll just chime in here for a second. After your presentation and any questions, we'll go through the template, just walk through it so people can see it and understand it and have an opportunity to ask questions.
Great, thank you. So data collection, this is what we've been working on a lot. And so we're working with the projects. We're also working with archangels to set up systems for collection and submission that are as easy as they can be and clear and consistent. So we're working with each site individually. And as I mentioned before, we're flexible, and the form, we want the data. We don't care so much how you get it. So, and we recognize that different programs are different things work for different programs, even for different people within your program. Some people might love to do something online and other people need to do it on paper or by phone. So, that it is something like we'll want to talk to you about, but it is up to you to know best how to collect the data. So we have basically two choices in terms of management and submission. So what we've seen both from the pilots and the expansion sites, some have data entry systems that they use regularly for their clients or patients, and those anybody can, but it seems like for those, actually that's the second choice. So that's the integrate survey questions choice. So if you have a system, then you can integrate our questions into your system and then export the responses for the survey. And Sheba Forum can help you to create. We have like an Excel template for the data to be exported to. For the sites that don't have an established system or don't want to integrate these questions into their system, we've developed, we being Sheba, and now Forum, have developed a data entry system using Qualtrics, which is something like SurveyMonkey, but a little more sophisticated. So you can use it on you can do electronic data entry directly into the system. It comes directly to us, and then we can send it back to you. So those are the kind of two different options that we've developed. We are using box.com for data sharing. So every project will have a folder in Box that we'll have access to, and you, whatever your project is, will have access to, and then we can talk to you about who else should have access, like if you want different partners or archangels, if you're using the CII. But this will be a way, like it's a protected system, so a way to share confidential information. So either to leave, a document sitting there that you can refer to, or to send data back and forth using that. So the schedule for data return and reporting, what we've done with the pilot, and so the plan for your sites is the same, is quarterly. So if you're using our system and the data gets automatically sent to us, then we'll send it back to you quarterly. If you're using your own system, we'll ask for it quarterly. So this is the plan. If for some reason we need to discuss that, whether this will work individually, we're happy to discuss it, but this is the plan. We analyze and report on our data annually, and can provide, when the idea in doing that, hopefully as we have more projects, that some of that will be in aggregate, but we will also look project by project, so can report those findings back to you. And speaking of findings, so I'd like to report some of the the sample pilot results. And so, again, hopefully this will motivate you and make you think, oh yes, this is a great thing. So glad we're doing evaluation. So the first one is Caregiver Tech Solutions. And they, so this number 31 is lower than their actual number now. This data was from the end of this or middle end of summer. So this was at the 3-month follow-up. So, nice results here that everybody said they know about new opportunities. 97% have new resources, 94% feel supported, 87% have new opportunities. The ones that are lower, that it seems fine to me that they're lower. Those are not really objectives of their program to connect to other caregivers. But I think that, the top ones are consistent with their objectives. So those are good findings. This is comparing their baseline to their follow-up. And, to me, it's kind of at the extremes where there's some interesting change. So for people who report that they have a period of rest or relief every day or almost every day, at baseline, it was just 3 people or 10. And at follow-up, it went up to 23%. Obviously, these numbers are, not huge, but they have more data and they feel like we'll be seeing the same thing as we look at the larger data. But again, kind of at the, the extremes, I had no opportunities for rest or relief. 26% said that at baseline, and then it was down to 10% at the follow-up. So I think you'll be hearing more about the caregiver intensity index later, but I'll just say we did, so 24 people had two measurements or did it twice baseline and follow-up. So again, this is a 3-month interval. And we saw a nice change in this as well. So in the red zone is the high intensity. So went from 29% down to 8. The green is low intensity, and at baseline, no one was in the low intensity, and at follow-up 13%. And these scores, there was a statistically significant reduction in the score. So again, nice findings. And then Musical Memories Cafe, I just thought I would show this one quote, which is, overall just a very positive quote. As I mentioned, we started this year to do interviews with participants. So this is one of the participants. And the part I mean, the whole quote is very positive and touching, but I like the kind of the last part of it, that where the person says that hour seems like a 3-day weekend. I mean, thinking about respite, that just seems like a good way to explain it. So this is, all our contact information, and I think that's kind of the end. So questions, suggestions? And Lisa, did you want to show?
No, let's let people have a chance to ask questions, and then we'll dive into the template. While people are thinking, Linda, I'll just chime in really briefly. Thank you. Nice presentation, an overview of the whole scope of the evaluation. Really, the main reasons that we're doing this evaluation are twofold. One is to help the funders and the leadership team understand the impact of Exhale and the impact on caregivers. And 2, equally important, we want to make sure that we're equipping your teams with data, information that you can share with future funders and other stakeholders to help tell the story about what you're doing and the value of what you're doing to your communities and to caregivers. So really, those are the dual goals of the evaluation and the whole reason for the effort.
So Linda, just a quick follow-up. I know we're going to be meeting sometime next week and within our team, but we met internally probably a couple weeks ago with a couple other providers where there is some cross collaboration, both in a vendor capacity and a lead capacity. So for instance, Cradle Beach may engage HaHa for vendor services to provide at our site during our respite programming, and vice versa. HaHa may be partnering with us to utilize our site. And I know we had extensive conversation and discussion and trying to brainstorm how best to, especially with cross collaboration, which is one of the focuses for caregivers, is offering them more opportunities and helping them to, engage additional resources, especially throughout our own partnership of Exhale, really makes a whole lot of sense. And I think that really came through quite clearly. And I recall there being concern regarding how do we address the unique data for our participants so that we're not overwhelming them with across multiple programs. Can you provide any updates from you and your team as to what we made a recommendation that maybe we highlight, or if there's some way through, I think it was the crosswalk or some document that was being used to maybe highlight where the originating agency is, and a name attached, or maybe some cross, consent of information coming from NIAM. Can you give any updates on that?
Sure. So that, yeah, I think that, that conversation was what motivated us to look into Box. So, I think like the way we're thinking about it for your 3 sites, because you're clearly collaborating and, HaHa is going to be at your site. And so that you would share a folder. You might have separate folders as well, but the idea is you would share a folder in Box, and you can have a tracking document in there that you can, this is what I think your recommendation was, that you can all see. I know so I think that if there is this kind of clear partnership, like we can work with those sites to develop a, kind of a small group document or folder. If there, in general, if there are referrals, I think, we can help you set up documents for that, but, you'll have to track it, of course. But you can save it within Box, and all have access to it. If it's just, if there, I know there are 13 sites, and there could be people in different programs where you don't necessarily know about it. It's not like a referral arrangement, or that those we cannot really track. So, but to me, I'm personally okay with that. There's always some noise in evaluation that, they could be doing respite in a program that's not Exhale, and we wouldn't know that either. But where we know there's like a concerted effort to collaborate, we can work, and again, we're trying to do that with the 3, you 3 sites, work with you to develop documents to help you track them. As
Linda,
well as,
we talked the other day on a Zoom meeting with Daisy's group, and I brought up the idea of on the evaluation that we just put a consent in there that the caregiver would sign that would allow us to track them by their name or the recipient's name, so that we could not have to be redundant in making them fill out the form for each of the programs that they're attending. Was there any more thought given to that?
we're okay. Yeah, I heard some about that, and we had a conversation about it. We're okay with you using names to track. The document that, and that I think we are settling on does have names. If that's what's easiest, we will keep the data separate from the name. So if you leave the name in Box, we're not going to, have that connected to the responses, but you still have to be the ones to be reviewing it to see, oh, I know that name, that person is in my program. We wouldn't have the capacity to look across and tell you, oh, that person is already enrolled somewhere else. But if you want to use names, that's okay.
Okay.
Sorry, there was confusion about.
Yeah, I wasn't really thrilled with the idea of the caregiver, if they're participating in, say, 3 different programs, having to fill out all this paperwork 3 times over.
No,
you know.
and that's what we're trying to avoid. I mean, in the conversations with those 3 sites was like, how do we figure it out so that they're not, because for the evaluation too, it's actually, we don't want to count the same person 3 times, right?
Right.
So, but it's, it's difficult to track. So we'd like to figure that out with you.
So
Yeah.
Linda, to Lisa's point, because our group, we definitely, went around this discussion a lot on Monday, because to give you some examples, even to Anne Marie's point and Lisa's point, I could see very easily us referring in to some of the other projects as well. Like, for instance, the Alzheimer's Association project with the tablets. I already have 3 candidates that we would sign up in our respite program, and I would immediately refer the caregivers as well over to their project because the tablet pieces came up for us. So this is where the rubber meets the road for us in terms of a technicality. If we have an individual that we are servicing, we start your baseline assessment. We've now referred that person over to Alzheimer's or over to Cradle Beach. My concern is one, which agency then becomes responsible for the next phase of the assessment? Because again, the time clock starts from the initial baseline, right? So my concern would be who's responsible for part 2 and part 3. And if we're all doing the same baseline assessment, it doesn't make sense to duplicate having another agency do the same thing.
Agreed.
So how do we, so it's one thing when you say you're working with one group that has 3, partners versus all of us in the region that may be referring to each other, and making sure that data can be shared across. So we're not overwhelming the caregiver, and also streamlining the case management assessment aspect of this, because at least for our project, we only have so many hours that are contracted for that, right? So for us, that duplication of service becomes critical because that is hours that can be used on another aspect of service.
Yeah, we don't want you to, no duplication. We don't want that. So, I mean, one thing in all these calls, and I know I was on the first call with your group, but not the second one, but one question we ask in every call is, who are your partners? Are you working with other Exhale partners? Do you think there's going to be overlap so that we can address this early? But I would say if you, if you're referring to me, if you're referring to Alzheimer's Association, I would think that what you would want to do is tell them, we've done the baseline. Don't do it. I would think that the organization that does the baseline is responsible for all the follow-up, and then we're just starting like you, right? And there are 13 of you, so some things we're still figuring out. But we can have, I feel like we need to have some, tracking, and this, maybe we put this in box 2, indicating referrals. So this is, a Buffalo Federation, client initially, but has participated in these 3 other organization programs. But I think for simplicity's sake, whoever touches not physically, but, the person first does the assessment, informs anyone they're referring to, they've already done it. And then it goes from there.
Linda, the one thing that we did bring up at the meeting with Cradle Beach and the Y was each of us having a particular number to begin the process. So, Cradle Beach is 1, Y is 2, HaHa is 3. That way we know exactly where it was initiated. To me, that seems like the simplest solution. If each of us have our own identifying number, then we know where it came from.
You know, when you put it in the box, you could put the person's name with the number that correlates to whatever agency started it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that is, I mean, that's what we're doing. We have a very nice spreadsheet that we're developing. And it also has the links to the surveys. So you have the person's name, and also, I mean, we could show it if you, I think, form if you want, or Sheba, but we're still working on it, so didn't share it yet, but has a column for programs that the person's participating in, and that could either be other Exhale programs or one, I think it was Matt at United Way said you wanted to keep track of the programs within your program that the person was participating in. So we have a column for programs. But it's an Excel spreadsheet. We can always add columns or whatever.
Yeah. Or even an acronym. I mean, acronyms are, Cradle Beach, CB.
Yeah.
This is Isel from Archangels. We've actually been working with Linda and her team on this. And one of the things in the spreadsheet that Linda's talking about is a unique participant ID that would be exactly that, Lisa. It would be like alphanumeric.
Yeah.
So it would be like CB and then your numbers,
Right.
or HAH, maybe, and then those numbers.
Or the name. We're using the name. I think that we've kind of established we're going to use the person's name because that's a great identifier. And as long as you have consent to use it, you might as well use it instead of going through all these numbers and then an acronym. I think that just makes it a lot simpler. And there was, that's to me sounds easier.
Linda, does that fit with your IRB requirements and rules?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a problem for us to have identifying information. It's not uncommon. We just keep it separate from the data. So
I think that kind of the consideration is beyond the 3 organizations where there's the opportunity to be both a vendor and a lead, the larger number of Western New York, or specifically in and surrounding Erie County providers. There's, I think, 5 of us, right, in that area. So if there was a way that we could, and it's probably less of an issue for maybe in counties or in regions and out of state where there's perhaps less partners that has the opportunities to impact uniqueness, right, of who's doing the assessment. But, I guess I would take it back to, we may not necessarily know that somebody's engaged with Daisy, right, or with some of the other partners. We can certainly ask them, but I think we should maybe assume, right, and that one of the greatest outcomes would be that all of our recipients are accessing all of the services, right, that is within their region and can be supportive and meets the criteria for their eligibility, because that's really demonstrating the impact, right, of Exhale. So if there is a way that it could be beyond the 3 and more so the 5 in our region, I think that would really be essential.
Backing off of this discussion too, I think, the point of how we're going to measure, and if someone's coming in and they're, getting the assessment from the first organization, we can track that if it's a formal referral to the second organization or the third organization. But if they're self-referring and they just show up, how are we to know, oh, they were just in Daisy's program and, then they went to Cradle Beach because it wasn't a formal referral? How would the constituent know, oh, I'm part of this Exhale cohort and I need to report to you that I already did this assessment and I took place in 2 other programs. So I think that's something else that needs to be considered.
Yeah, they're know the difference. They're not going to know.
Yeah, I think, if you have recognizable names, you can ask them, but you're right. I mean, it's not, it's not like a drug trial or a randomized control trial. It's like a real life thing and people are going to do what they're going to do. I would say, ask them if they've done it before, or if they started and they say, no, I think I've done it before.
But Linda, to your point, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but again, this came up in our other meeting. If the focus is on the data and the quality of the data that we're reporting out on, then these unique identifiers and who's identifying and when become extremely important, because if not, then your data is askew. And then we would have gone through all of this and you still would not have gotten the result that you want in the end.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand that, but I mean,
my point is that there has to be a very specific mechanism in terms of how you're going to identify and track these clients through whatever numbering system or naming system that you want to do. I think using a name is going to be difficult, especially if people have the same first and last name. Then what do we do to make it a unique identifier?
Yeah, I mean, I would say where we know there are partners, where we can work with them to develop a system. We can develop a system to track people, you know, from Rochester to Buffalo. So, I mean, it's just, it's not, I would say, you know, we can do it.
I also think the likelihood of that happening is probably low.
Yeah. I agree.
I mean, I think in the South Towns region and also perhaps in the Buffalo region, this could happen. It's not going to be something that's going to be a daily event, but you know, I think that Linda and her team are setting up. You'll see, are setting up a system where individuals can be tracked, and you know, I think with that, plus your efforts at trying to be vigilant and just asking people, you know, have you participated in other programs that are part of Exhale, as Cradle Beach and HaHa, you know, those two approaches will be able to address this issue when it occurs, which is, again, not going to be a daily event.
Right.
Well, is there going to, you mentioned that there's going to be a list of everybody that has already filled out an evaluation. Is that box.com? I apologize. I've been like in and out of this because today was my respite day. You can see I'm in the church. Everybody just went home and we entertained 3 folks from Rochester. And my battery's going dead here. And they observed for the day up until noon and then they left. But if there's like at box.com, if there's a list of everyone, whoever is the coordinator for each of the programs can look at that list to see if they're on it. And if they're on it and they've already done the initial evaluation, then they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, so I mean, what we were initially thinking was that each project would have their own and then decide who they wanted to share it with. For the 3 that we knew were working together, the thought was, okay, well, maybe they have a shared folder, but I don't, you know, we can think about it more and get back to you all, but I don't think we want one central list that everyone can see. That to me seems not appropriate from a, you know, human subjects protection. I mean, I know it's only names, it doesn't have, you know, any kind of other information, but it just, I don't think we want to keep it that open. So
we would need to have informed consent in informing the participants that we are communicating across our Exhale partners that involve these particular organizations, and that and for the goodness of wanting to be able to provide services, what may be and to their benefit, and making sure that we can sustain these programs. I think the other thing that may be helpful is really perhaps really looking at what is a differentiating difference between each one of our programs, and that may also help to resolve this, right? If somebody has clear, self-care, independent needs to be able to participate in one of the other programs, they may not be have the eligibility to participate in our program. So maybe that helps to clarify, to see where the distinction is, right? Maybe as they travel along in their journey of caregiving, that caregivers may, but I'm not sure that they fit all the criteria for all of our 5 local programs right now. And so that may be helpful as well.
I feel like we could probably go on and on about this because it is really difficult, but I did want to ask if anybody had other kinds of questions about the evaluation.
Linda, you'll be sending out an example of the spreadsheet that you're developing, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw us showing some version of it, but we maybe not the final. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Linda,
But-
do you want me to share it? Hi, this is Laura.
Well,
It's
let's-
for yeah, I don't do. Sorry, that was for asking.
Yes.
Do you want to preview to people, but I do feel like if there are other topics that we should discuss, we might also do that.
We're also running tight on time. It's fine if we want to show it for a minute or two, but I think any detailed discussion of it we'll have to table.
So Form, are you going to do that? Or
Sure, I can do that now.
Thank you.
just to show that we've been thinking about this, even if it's not finished. And I'll just mention, so the first tab has instructions about, what we need, what's for you to keep. Yeah, so we're still working on finalizing, but instructions on this document, and then Form, if you want to go back to the other page. So if you want to keep names, there's a place for names. If you have site IDs that you're using, if you're using emails, a place for that. This is the other programs. Maybe we need more columns for that, but and this is for you to decide how to use, whether it's other Excel programs or internally. And then so the links from Archangels are already there, but we'll also have links for our surveys for sites that are using the Qualtrics system. So, we're working on it. That's basically my point.
Thank you, Linda. Any other questions for Linda on the evaluation overview?
Well, I know we'll be talking to all of you again, so.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Linda and team, for your efforts in helping all the teams develop their evaluation plans. Let's just spend a minute or two on the evaluation plan template so everybody knows what questions to answer. I did send this out a couple of weeks ago. This is a template that you can use to fill out, to complete your evaluation plan. The overview is just your description of your program. What you had previously shared with me for your program description in the fall would be perfectly fine here. The goal is to have this be a standalone document, so that's why that's here. In terms of evaluation questions, we want to understand what are your key process evaluation questions, and process questions focus on program implementation and uptake. And then we also want to understand, what do you think are your key outcome questions that focus on change? For example, is anyone better off? So there's some samples here you can think about. You're welcome to use some of these questions if you like them, they fit. Then we want a little bit of information on methods, just describing the data that you'll collect and analyze, and how you're going to answer the questions that you just articulated above on outcomes and process. And also please include like the timing, the intervals for your data collection, and how you're going to collect that data, just basic methods information. And it doesn't have to be terribly detailed, but just describe how you're going to go about getting this data. Evaluation reporting, again, briefly describe how you plan on sharing this information back with NIAM and with TPI, just so that you have a record of how it will flow within your organizations and a timeline for how to achieve that. We have a date of August 31 each year as a milestone for you to provide whatever data you have by that point in time to NIAM, so that they can include it in their evaluation reports, which we mentioned at the beginning, happen each year in the fall. And then a section just briefly on human subjects, because it's a important component of this work. NIAM's going to provide you with an information sheet describing the evaluation that should be given to all participants. They should be told that they're being asked to participate in an evaluation and that it's optional. And then the information collected for the evaluation is confidential and reported only in summary form. No individual identification is included. And then here's some sample language that you can use in describing your program's plans for protection of human subjects. And feel free to modify this, but here's a start. So again, this is, a 2-3 page summary of your plans for evaluation. We'd like to have these if you can get them in by April 1, that would be ideal for those teams that are ready. If you need a little more time, April 15 is fine too. Feel free to, lean on Linda and her team as a resource to help you in designing these plans. And please do share them with Linda and her team before you send them to me as the final product. Any questions on this before we move on to the next topic? No questions? Okay, and thank you, Linda and team, for putting together that template. It's helpful to have something to work from. All right, moving along, just in the interest of time. Isa, would you like to talk a little bit about the Caregiver Intensity Index and how it fits with the evaluation and what it is and best practices from Cohort 1?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let me just set this up real quick. Apologies, I was taking copious notes and I didn't want to. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I feel it's sort of a bit of regrouping here, just to sort of back up, give everybody a sort of an overview on the CII. We'll next talk about options for using the CII within your program. We'll talk about some best practices as well as using the CII in your program's evaluations. Backing up, just to gently remind everyone, I haven't spoken with everybody, but those that I have met, I've greatly enjoyed meeting with you and learning about your programs. To sort of recap what the CII is, the Caregiver Intensity Index uses data collection and research to really drive impact as far as resources offered, action, and advocacy for caregivers. Our platform engages caregivers. We validate their experience using the Caregiver Intensity Index, and then we drive them directly to resources that can potentially help them. I hope this slide looks familiar. Nationwide, caregiver intensity was definitely impacted by the pandemic. No surprise there. What's really surprising is what's happened in the high intensity, those folks who are in the red. Pre-pandemic, we were at 8%. Post-pandemic, it drastically jumped over 3x to 24%. What's crazy is that it is not getting better. Within the past 90 days, it's actually going up. Our co-founder, Sarah, as we were prepping for this meeting, she's like, Isel, in some places we're seeing CII, the people in the red, as high as 32%. So while we are post-pandemic, the intensity caregivers are feeling is not getting better. It's not going down as we had hoped or expected. So just a quick review of some of the goals of using the CII within your pilot or within your program, really looking at how we explore how respite programs impact caregivers, using the CII to really look at baseline and then with follow-up evaluations, the impact of your program on them, the caregiver themselves. Also using the CII to give us a common language, like, oh, are you in the red? oh, today I was in the yellow, so maybe I should line up some resources. Using that type of language to have those conversations with caregivers as well. And for those who wish to really engage caregivers who come to your website. I will share with you some ideas that we have shared with other pilot sites about how to use the CII to get a broad understanding of what's happening in your community, and even, you know, sort of line up resources before they need it. Get an understanding of what's happening so you can have those resources lined up. There are a couple of options for you to use the CII at your site. One is make it part of your Exhale respite pilot. So make it integrated part of it into your process. Make it part of your enrollment, collect it as part of baseline, and then over time, you will collect those insights that will allow you to enrich your program. The other option is use it as a marketing or as a sort of referral source, or a way to prime your market in a way. Anyone who's visiting your website just to learn about your program, we can create a content block there to drive them to the CII and generate for you some of those insights of what's happening in the community, as well as I said, prime the market, potential referrals into your program. When you include the CII as part of your Exhale Respite program, it's really about making it part of that enrollment registration, maybe the first time they drop off their loved one, engage their loved one with the program, as well as coordinating that with your NIAM baselines and follow-ups. Also, it provides the opportunity. What's brilliant about the CII is, depending on how your program implements it or integrates it into the program, it's really an opportunity for you to engage with that caregiver directly. If it's live and in person, you can actually have the conversation with them. Looks like you're in the red, and here's how our respite program, or here's some of the programs that we have available for you that could address some of that and help you out a little bit. So it really offers your program and your staff an opportunity to engage with that caregiver. When we look at using the CII on your website or even some of your marketing materials, some of you have told us that you're out in the community, you're doing health fairs, you're hosting events, that you print up materials, that you'd like to have information available. On the left-hand side, you see a content block that we've developed with Exhale to put up on your website. You would have a custom link there. It would not be, the data would not get mingled with your respite pilot, but we will still provide you insights as to anyone who takes it, and provide you with that level of detail of buffers and drivers of intensity. And on the right-hand side, you know, just an example of something we could design for you to put on any materials. It's a little big, we can absolutely tighten it up, but the information is, hey, you know, caring for somebody is an honor. It can also be really intense. Take a quick quiz and find out what's making it more intense for you, and then directing them directly to the CII. You can use this in emails. You could use it in newsletters that you may be publishing out to your general population as well. So sort of in summary, integrating the CII is not only going to provide you insights into what is driving caregiver intensity, but it's you know, what drives some of those mental health impacts that we know are impacting caregivers, particularly if they're in the red. But it really provides you the opportunity to curate or develop or prepare resources that you're already seeing come up in your data, and have those readily available for your population, as well as the participants in your respite pilots. Some of the best practices and learnings, just sort of reiterating what Linda showed earlier, the Caregiver Intensity Index is absolutely a statistically valid way to measure your program's impact on caregiver intensity. So it's definitely an excellent way to measure your program's ability to alleviate caregiver worry and stress. Can't stress that enough. when we saw these results, I literally wanted to jump up and start dancing around the room because it was just so impactful. And this was at I think Linda said at a 3-month, just at the 3-month follow-up. So just an amazing shift there that would provide your program the validity of our program has an impact. Let me demonstrate to you how it has an impact, and that's what you'll need to go out for additional funding and as you start thinking about sustainability of your programs. Also best practices and learnings from cohort 1. For sure, managing participant enrollment as well as managing data entry was really critical for success of a pilot program. Some of the sites did really well, some sites struggled a bit, but I think the learning for us was this is something that we might be able to help with. Additional learning from cohort 1, as well as from our conversations with all of you guys, is that we need something that's flexible, something that's easy for the sites to implement, because each one of you is different. Each one of you is pulling different levers at any given time to engage your population, to do the assessments that you already have to do as part of just your general program, as well as with any partners that you may have. So, based on your feedback and what we heard, we've been perseverating and worrying about the same things that you have. And we've been working closely with Linda's team. They've been absolutely fabulous. Sheba and Forum have been wonderful. And so what we've come up with, and it's very much in draft, are some tools that will help you manage your respite pilot. One is creating a master key. Forum gave you a preview of it. It's still in development, but it's looking good. That will come to you pre-populated for sure with the links for your NIAM surveys. But also if you're participating in the CII, we'll populate that with your CII links custom to each member. We're also going to be using a participant ID. So we understand the need to have something that's easy for you to manage, something that's easy for you to access. So we've changed the CII to accommodate the NIAM participant ID. So what that means is you can use the same ID for that participant when you're entering your NIAM data into your NIAM portal, and that same ID into the CII portal when you're entering CII data, if you are doing it manually. Or we'll talk about some of those other options of how some of the sites are additionally using those links. So we talked about the portals. You're going to use this, you can use this one participant ID. And we've also cobbled together a process workflow to help you sort of think through. We realize that each of you have various different ways of collecting this information. This is absolutely draft, so we haven't really tightened this up, but it's we can share that with you. So this should look familiar because Forum shared another version of it. They're really the ones who are owning it. This is sort of something we cobbled up earlier together. But again, an Excel participant ID that you will be able to use in both your NIAM reporting as well as any CIIs that you would need, along with custom links for those participants. Also, we put together a flow chart. There are, in meeting with you guys are definitely using many different ways to collect information. Some of you are using paper, totally cool. Some of you are working directly with the recipient and doing those surveys live with them in person. Some of you are sending a link and actually having them complete the survey. Others would like to have a caregiver complete the survey, maybe at a desktop or a tablet sitting in the common area. So this is very much draft. Would love some feedback. First time, I think maybe Linda is seeing it. This is what I do, like when I worry about things, I start drawing. So this is my way of sort of detangling everything. The other thing that we've also come up with to help you, so this tool was designed to help you and your team sort of talk through how you're going to integrate both NIAM surveys into your workflow, and if you choose to use the CII, how you would do that. The other little tool we have available for you is after you've kind of gone through that exercise, sort of documenting how you're going to do it and sharing it with us. We realize that nothing here is set in stone and that life happens. And once you get live, you may change your process, and this is totally flexible. It's a starting point and we can change it at any given time. But we've come up with some tools that we hope to share with you in the near future. And if you guys have any questions about anything that we've discussed, by all means, feel free to reach out to us. Sarah is our co-founder. She's not here, but I myself, more than welcome to, drop me an email, send me a message through Lisa if you need. And Brad Smith, who is on the line with us as well, he provides us all of our tech backup on the CII. That's all I have for you today.
Thank you. That was great. Really helpful to understand big picture of using the CII and the benefits of it, and also how it integrates with the evaluation. Any questions for Isel or Brad about the CII?
Is it because it's 3:30? You guys are awfully quiet. Makes me nervous.
I
have one really quick question. If we're interested in incorporating it into our project, would we just reach out to one of you to
Yeah, you can reach out to me. I'll drop my
Okay.
email in the chat if I can find it. And anyone who is interested, give me a call. I will be working with Linda and Forum and Sheba just to sort of lock everything down, get those out to the sites we know who are doing it using the CII. But again, it's sort of a consolidated flow, whether you're doing NIAM or NIAM and CII, you'll still get that little packet of information.
Thank you.
Yes, I also just want to make a plug for the CII. It's a great tool for program outreach as well as for evaluation. We've seen from the first pilot that it can really demonstrate the impact of your program on caregiver stress and resiliency. It's not a requirement, but it's available to you at no cost. It's a great tool. So we want to highly encourage you to at least consider it and have a conversation with Isel and her team and figure out if it makes sense for you, for your program, and how you might incorporate it. So I encourage you to reach out to Isel with any questions or any interest, just to explore it.
And I loved the conversation about the sites referring and stuff. So definitely a conversation we'll probably have with Linda and her team.
Yeah, and it's a great thing that sites are referring. So it's all good. We will figure this out, promise. Okay, thank you, Isel and Brad. Appreciate your efforts and your time today, and for working with teams. All right, so in our last 30 minutes or 33 minutes, what I'd like to do is let's go around the room and just do, super quick 3-minute update on, and I know that's not a lot of time, and so we'll do this again in the future. We'll do this periodically, but just, how things are going with your project in terms of, when you're going to launch, where you are in the planning process, and anything you're stuck on, any questions you want to put out there that we can maybe stimulate some conversation by email or follow up, to troubleshoot some problems or challenges you might be having. So let's start with Anne Marie Orlowski, because Anne Marie may have to hop off. If you're still here, Anne Marie, why don't you go first?
Yes, thanks, Lisa.
Sure.
So our Pathways for Caregivers program was initially started or planned to kick off and launch in January. We had kicked that back and postponed that to March is our current. March 16th is our current true launch for the start of our program. We're providing social day respite for caregivers and their loved ones. And one of the great successes is the fact that we've been able to, especially located in the South Towns and with the weather that we've had. We did have an open house just last week. It was very well attended by vendors and very well received by vendors. We did have some caregivers and some folks from the community come. We did receive two participants to sign up for our Pathways program. Although clearly I think, additional efforts to be able to broaden that scope to have caregiver access to attend is necessary moving forward. I think coming off the blizzard, quite frankly, and still with the weather and based on our location, that also hampered some of our efforts. We were happy to have an ad in the Buffalo News as well to get the message out. We have worked with a professional relevant to our logo, and we are thrilled. We had a process in place, really keen process, working through really what the program meant for caregivers, for the community, for us as organizations, and we're thrilled. We'll reveal that as well if folks haven't already seen it. We've had great responsiveness from volunteers. We do have an event in February where Alzheimer's Association on the 16th will be coming out to do training, and then we'll be doing a simulation of our program. Some of our challenges are, given our model of service, really providing two distinct programs to caregivers as well as separate programming to their loved ones simultaneously. That has kind of been a challenge in and of itself, especially given the fact that we do not have a hired coordinator per se to be supporting. We're working my role as the CEO, as our administrator, and so with Val's, as well as our leadership team and Lisa. So that has been a true challenge, is for the requirements of this, and we've been certainly putting our all into it, but that's part of the conversation relevant to looking at a coordinator to assist. The other challenge, I think, is, well, the blizzard really impacted some of our facilities, ourselves here at Cradle Beach, which postponed the open house a bit. And then also, as we're digging deeper into this from the initial model, we're having some discoveries relevant to our budget and what was not planned in there for additional time. And so I'm seeing a number of heads shaking for other, perhaps, people's discoveries. So we'll probably be reaching out to Lisa to talk a little bit further about that as well. But that's all I have in the interest of time, unless anybody from our team would like to add anything.
Thank you, Anne Marie. That's a great summary, and congrats on all the good work you're doing. Sounds like you guys are, managing the challenges and making great progress and planning for, we'll be ready for a launch in March. It's great.
Thank you.
And happy to have any conversations with your team or anyone who wants to, look at their budget or think about their budget. If there's, we're flexible and we're all learning as we go with these programs. So welcome those conversations.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. So I'd like to go to Michigan next, because last time you guys got a little bit squished for time. So I want to make sure you have an opportunity to share today. Chelsea Senior Center, would you guys like to give a 3-minute overview of how things are going?
Sure. I'm happy to talk. So Chelsea Senior Center Ease the Day Caregiver Respite Support. We're going to be giving family caregivers a much needed break in rural Western Washtenaw County, Michigan. And we're partnering with Catholic Social Services, Jewish Family Services, Silver Maples, and Chelsea Hospital Ministerial Alliance. So it's got 3 parts, where it's a social model adult day respite program on site. Then we're going to be doing 2 in-home respite care options. And then also we are going to be a hub to help connect caregivers to other resources. So basically, we are doing a soft launch of our adult day respite and the other programs in late March, and more of a targeting a full launch an open house time more in later April. And we have memorandums of understanding with both of our with two main partners that we're doing contractual work. And we're really talking and communicating well with them. I also just want to give a shout out to Isel from Archangels and her team, and also Linda Weiss and Niam for really working and problem solving. I felt like it's been a really good creative problem solving process where you've just really listened, because our concern is very much like your concerns that we talked about today about the burden of survey for caregivers and all the data. So we've got 3 different organizations that need to weave our assessments together. And so we're working on that, and we just really love the tools of the Master Key, Process Workflow, and Box. Regarding marketing strategy, we're still working. We're working with Catch a Fire and some local professionals. We've had some real success on some parts of it with logo design. We're stumbling on a few things because it didn't work out with Catch Fire on a couple things, but we're finding local resources to help us instead. And our brightest note is that we just hired a new part-time respite care coordinator with lots of experience, and she's going to start in March. And we have volunteers and caregivers already reaching out to us to sign up. They want to get going on this respite care, and we're excited.
Fantastic, Lisa. That's really, really great to hear. You've got people calling you.
Yes, definitely.
That's nice. That's really nice. Thank you. That's great. Good work. Allison, would you like to go next? Ypsilanti Meals on Wheels.
Yep, sure. So I gave a little bit of overview on our program already with folks, but again, our program does come to the client and caregiver home, bringing the service of the OT and the handyman services there, and then also the care of the nurse if they need assistance, and then social work as is needed for both connecting the older adult and the caregiver with the respite they need and benefits advocacy as they might need. So Care on Wheels is up and running. We have already started screening and enrollments, and in fact, today we did the first assignments for some short-term, midterm, and long-term interventions. So we have 8 clients so far who have started, 4 on short-term, and then 2 on midterm, and 2 on long-term care. Short-term usually just needs 1 clinician and likely some home modifications, and then works on a few skill building and education pieces with the occupational therapist. Our partners are both in line, have the MOUs signed and ready. We have our marketing collateral already completed, and it's gone out to quite a few clients and to caregivers. So we hope to kind of keep sending those out to clients. We've also connected it to other ancillary programs to our Care on Wheels program. One is a technology support program with artificial intelligence through a provider called LEQ. So we have 2 clients that are going to be getting that piece as well. We've been working with NIAM already with our evaluation project. So we have all of that already in our electronic health record system. So the surveys for the 3, 6 month, and hopefully when the 12-month one is ready, we'll have that in our system. So we have our data integration already completed as well. Our biggest challenge though for us is some of our clients' caregivers are fairly apprehensive of participating in the surveying and interview process. So that's probably going to be our biggest challenge, is winning over the caregivers of wanting to be as involved as we would like them to be. So that has been a challenge. We also have a couple of clients who are co-housed. So one's a couple and one is 2 gentlemen that are living co-housed, and they're caregivers for each other. So we also wanted to see how that worked by having them both be clients, but also caregivers to each other, and see how that works out in different to having caregivers who may live outside the home. So that's a big update for us, but we feel pretty confident that we will meet our first 15 people by the end of February.
That's fantastic, Allison. Thank you. It's great to hear that you've got it all baked into your EMR and your data integration's already figured out. That's a huge accomplishment, and nice to have that set up so early in your program. And congrats on having 8 clients so far. That's fantastic. Sounds like you guys are well on your way. So thank you for that update. Shannon or anybody from the University of Michigan team, anybody want to give a brief update? Shannon, I know you're having microphone challenges today. Okay, here she's put it in the chat. We submitted our plan and we're about to start next stages to set up our program. However, early January, the program coordinator left the role and we've been really short-staffed. Right now, we're in the process of trying to find a replacement so we can get the program back on track in terms of timeline. The goal is that we are going to provide social activities for caregivers with respite available in adult day or at home care of volunteer caregiver or volunteer caregiver. Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate that. I know you were having microphone challenges today. That's a good update. And I know it was a struggle when you lost your coordinator after just 2 months, but confident that you will find a new person for that role in the not too distant future. And please keep me posted on how that's going. Okay, great. Let's move now to Western New York, and we unfortunately probably will not have time to get through everybody today. So I'm just going to ask for volunteers who would like to go ahead and give us a quick summary of your. Go ahead, Jill.
Okay, just real brief here. Our program we did start in November. We provide a 2-hour respite program at different sites throughout the area. We did start in November. We had 10 participate, November, 12 December, 12 in January. We're looking to up those numbers, of course. And I think part of that is going to be on me to make sure I'm getting more information out into the community and do a little more marketing on it. The Caregiver Coalition, they've been helpful. They've been putting our information into their newsletter, which is great. And beginning in April, we'll be upping our programs to 2 per month and looking forward to that. I've already got things in the works for those programs. We also will be doing a mini retreat in April, site yet to be determined. We're looking at a couple of them. We are also working on sites, and I'm asking anyone for suggestions if you have any. We're looking for sites in the city and the north towns to be able to hold our programs. We've got a couple in the city, and we've got quite a few in the south towns, but we need to go northward. So I'm looking at that. I do have 2 other sites, but again, they're more in the south towns that I'll be meeting with as far as getting our programs into their facilities. That pretty much is it right now. I think, we're kind of on track. The evaluation thing, there's been a lot of back and forth with Linda and Sheba trying to get our part of the evaluation completed. And it looks like we're finally there. Definitely looking forward to working with the Archangels, incorporating that into our website and into our programs. And I'll be reaching out for help on that as far as getting it up into our website. But overall, I feel like, we're making good progress and looking forward to seeing what the future holds. Thank you.
Jill, that's fantastic. That's fabulous. You've got some great numbers already. 10 in November, 12 in each December and January,
Yep.
And planning to double your session volume. The number of sessions starting in April. So that's phenomenal.
Yeah, very, very happy with it. Thank you.
And if anybody has any ideas for sites in Erie County, a little bit north of the South Towns area, and that Jill and her team could offer their program at, please let her know.
Okay.
Including other exercises, as it makes sense. Okay, thank you very much, Jill. I appreciate that.
Thank you
for your efforts. Anyone else like to volunteer? Oh, I'm sorry, Doris. Doris already volunteered. Doris from Lifespan, please go ahead.
Thanks, Lisa. So we started the project and we've done our MOUs and signed our contracts. We've hired a phenomenal program coordinator from our ranks at Lifespan. We have recruited Marta, who is our faculty fellow from St. John Fisher University, along with Emily Collis, and they're both with the Institute for Civic and Community Engagement at the university. We partner with the Finger Lakes Caregiver Institute at Lifespan, as well as, in addition, SWAN, which is where our first, or at least our initial respite program will be held. We've worked on, we meet constantly. So, and we've all, as the team has grown, we've all completed the foresight survey, and we're meeting with Teresa soon to just kind of go over all that as a team, because we just keep growing. So we planned a soft launch for March 15th. We'll be open every Wednesday to start for 4 hours a day. We have current challenges of naming our respite program, but we're going to get there within the next week or so. Finalizing, so Dawn is working on, our new program director, coordinator is working on finalizing all our registration materials, our intake. We're mailing out letters to all existing caregiver families in Monroe County to announce the program. We're working with SWAN to network with the folks right in their region through all the faith communities, and begin to screen and register our applicants. We have a very heavy push on volunteer recruitment at this point. Both community and student volunteers will be starting in the fall. St. John Fisher is putting together and finalizing all their plans and processes for recruiting the student volunteers. And then Marta, wave Marta. Marta's the newest on our team, and she'll be leading our program evaluation efforts. So we plan to utilize different evaluation methods, including surveys of our caregivers, including the CII, pre and post surveys surrounding respite care, and focus groups. And we want to continue to follow our families throughout the program and use our evaluation as a tool in helping families and also grow the program. With our student volunteers, there'll be an opportunity to see how the intergenerational aspect of our care, for our care receivers as well, and for our students. That's it.
That's amazing, Doris. Thank you. You and your team are off to a phenomenal start. And also, it sounds like you're setting up your system so that you'll be very ready come March 15th when you hit the road.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best we can do, right? Teresa offered that she has a tool for generating program names, using the creative problem solving method. So you might want to add that to your agenda for whatever you guys have. Thank you. That's a wonderful overview, and welcome to all of your team members that you brought on board. It sounds like a really, really, really great mixture of organizations that are working together, and you're off to a great start.
Yep, and we have used that tool Teresa sent us, so we recommend it. We're getting there.
Good. And I'm also happy to hear that your evaluation and your use of the CII is going well. Your planning is underway. You've got Marta on board to help with that, which is great. I'm eager to hear what your plans are along those lines in the future. Who else from Western New York might like to volunteer?
I'll share our status. I'm from St. John's Home in Rochester, and our plan is to open a dementia resource center here at the nursing home on site. And unfortunately, because there's still ongoing cases of COVID, our administration is a little reluctant to try to run a program where we're welcoming people in from the outside. And so it's been a little bit on hold. However, we are making plans, and we're also working with Lifespan on this future Dementia Resource Center. So some of the planning is that we're hoping to open some services, perhaps in temporary space, maybe around mid-year. We are definitely planning to hold an event in the fall during National Caregivers Month in early November. And even if we're not able to have it here at the nursing home, we would have that at our senior living community, which is about 1.5 miles down the road. And we are able to welcome in the public there. So we would host an event where we talk about plans for the Dementia Resource Center and share a technology demonstration where we show people who are taking care of a loved one with dementia, how technology items can help engage the individual as well as help them find information. So those are our future plans. I can tell you the good news is that we do have a digital dementia resource center that has been very successful. It's receiving an average of 726 hits per month. So we do find that there's an awful lot of people seeking this information and support online. But on the Digital Dementia Resource Center, they can view informational articles and blog posts. They can subscribe to a dedicated e-newsletter. They can find answers to frequently asked questions. And there's even an Ask Mimi button where Mimi is a real person. She's here on our staff. She's a dementia specialist, and she does get right back to the user and help them with their issues. So the website will help us in the future to we'll be evaluating use of the Digital Dementia Resource Center and be able to use that information for when we do open the on-site resources. We'll know best what kind of help and support people are looking for.
That's great, Anne. And the digital center, is it designed for both the caregiver inquiries as well as older adults? Like who's using it?
It is primarily caregivers in the community taking care of people at home. And I'm not sure if Jennifer is still on, but she would have more information about who is using it and what features of the website they're using. I myself, I'm I don't have those details.
That's okay. You're talking about Jennifer Gunia?
Lizinski.
Oh, Lizinski, I'm sorry, because Jennifer Gunia said, love the Ask Mimi button.
It is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's great. And it sounds like the digital opportunity and launch center that you have will be a nice way to help inform your physical center come summertime, and also help with outreach and getting people to come in to the center. So that's nice.
Yes, and we are meeting with Linda next week to talk about how to evaluate use of that and be able to use that information for the physical center.
That's great. Thank you very much, Anne. Appreciate your update. Anybody else want to go? We have about 8 more minutes. We have time for maybe 2 more teams today. Do we have a volunteer?
Good afternoon, BFNC here. Great hearing about all the updates, and I really am just empowered by all of the work that you all are doing. And BFNC and our team members through Compere, again, Hearts and Hands, Schiller Park Senior Center, Lisa Rude, and clinical healthcare management. We are actively working on finishing out the implementation phase or implementation planning, which ends for us in the next month. And then we go live in April. We are now finalizing our intake process for our project for referrals. Our links actually will be going live within the next week or so on our website. And then we are in active volunteer recruitment for our respite days. The plan for that is being executed right now. We will then go into volunteer training and then actual respite days for the calendar dates that we have planned for the remainder of the year. We do have a few challenges in terms of staffing, as with some of the other projects have mentioned. So I am actively working on that within our agency to get some program aides and different folks hired. In terms of the budget pieces, Early on, we realized some of the things that we were going to have to navigate, and we actually talked with Lisa early on, Lisa Simon, for some of those adjustments. And Lisa has been really great, so I can attest to their flexibility in working with us on making some of the necessary changes that we needed to within the scope of our budget. And now we are, going along with that. I think for us, really, this evaluation process is really key for us, because we understand that while there's some key things as the overall assessment of the Excel initiative across all of the different, folks that were funded is important, and we want to make sure we're honoring whatever is agreed upon. We also know specifically that there are some things out of our project that we want to know as well, and trying to finalize what those things are going to be. And so there's been a lot of discussion and making sure that we're very thoughtful about that and what our evaluation is going to look like specific to some of the indicators that we identify. So that is really where a lot of the work is happening right now. And in terms of the project reporting, we did turn in our overall project timeline. We were good there. So as far as I'm concerned, if Lisa's happy, we're happy. So we're just going to keep going in that regard. And again, you're just very excited to be working with all of you. And I have to say, I have a really great team that's working with us. So I'm very, very pleased with this collaboration.
Thank you, Daisy. That's a great overview. Appreciate all the work all the thinking you're doing on the evaluation and making sure that it's telling your story, and also helping us tell the Excel story. So that's our dual goal, really. Where are you guys beginning your respite days? I know you have a couple of sites that you have that will be part of this, but I'm just curious, where are you starting out? Is it at your center?
Tom Pier and Schiller Park are actually going to go live first. And
okay.
Then BFNC, my site will actually go live in the end of May. Part of the reason for that was just availability of space in the building here at BFNC. Sure. We operate a very large free income tax preparation network. So the day rooms that we normally would use are being used for the tax program. So after tax season on April 18th, I'm free to go with using our space over here. So, and again, I have to always say it, if you have clients that need services, just reach out to me. We'll make sure they're connected for the service. But aside from that, we will be launching at BFNC at the end of May, beginning of June. And then we are providing support to the anchor sites to get them launched first. So for us, we were very thoughtful about that and wanting to make sure that each site had enough time for the careful planning and also the level of support they're going to need. And so, that's the best way we could handle that.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. And it's good to make sure that everybody's ready to go. And the tax program sounds phenomenal. It's
yeah, very big program. So again, if you have clients that need free tax services, please send them our way.
Thank you, Daisy. Do we have anyone else, last 2 minutes, anyone want to volunteer, give a quick overview? Nobody want to volunteer? All right, that's okay. In our last minute or two, I'll just, first of all, I want to thank you all for your input today and for all the hard work that you're doing on your projects. It sounds like from what we've heard from many of you, all of you, that things are on track. Many of you are already starting to provide respite services, and that is just phenomenal. It's music to our ears, so that's great. And I'll also appreciate the thinking and the dialogue on the evaluation. It's very important that it meets your needs and it meets our needs too. So we'll, Linda and her team and the Archangels team will work with you to help figure out a strategy and a plan for your evaluation. I'm eager to read them and eager to hear what your plans will be. I want to just close with a couple of announcements. So evaluation plans, we'd like them by April 15th or even the 1st if you can get them in by that time. And again, send them to Linda first and her team so that they can provide any kind of feedback or input and then share them with me. And then your first grant reports, the narrative, which I sent out a couple of weeks ago, the template for the narrative, and then your financial report, your first financial report, those are due March 1st, and those come to me. And if you haven't looked at it yet or seen it yet, then the template is just a couple of questions that are asking you how your implementation is going, what challenges you're experiencing, how you're incorporating caregiver input, any uses of the creative problem-solving process, and all of the above. Just a couple of questions, and it doesn't need to be a lengthy document, really just, some quick answers to those questions, and anything else you want to share, we'd love to hear. If anybody needs the template, feel free to please reach out to me. I'm happy to email it to you. And also, there is no formal format for the financial report. We encourage you to look at your budgets and use that as a way to report on, on the spending that you've done to date on your projects, vis-a-vis your budget as a template for your financial report. It's perfectly fine to do that. And no sense recreating the wheel. Might as well just use your budget and create a reporting template out of that. So if anybody has any questions, any closing comments or anything, anybody want to share today? No? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. It's really great to hear what you're working on. My door is open. Feel free to contact me at any time with any issues regarding anything as it relates to Exhale. Okay?
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye now.
Thank you.